Money kind of rules our lives. We work for it, we save it, we spend it. But here's the secret. Over 90% of money doesn't even exist physically. It's just numbers on a screen. Today, we're going to uncover the secret life of money and figure out how currency really works.
Okay, let's just start with that because it's pretty wild. And no, this isn't some sci-fi movie plot. It's the actual reality of our financial system. The huge majority of what we call money is just a digital entry in a bank's computer system. So, how on earth did we get here?
That's the big question for our explainer today, isn't it? And to find the answer, we have to peel back, centuries of history and maybe just a few layers of what feels like economic magic. Let's start right at the beginning.
To really get what's happening in our digital world, we first have to look at the physical one that came before it. See, for most of human history, money was something you could actually touch. You could weigh it, and you could hold it in your hand.
It all started with bartering, right? Trading your goats for some wheat. But that was super inefficient. You had to find someone who not only had the wheat you wanted, but also happened to want your goats. So around 650 BC, the Lydians invented coins. Finally, standardized, portable value. China then came up with paper money, a concept that, believe it or not, took Europe almost 1,000 years to finally adopt.
All right, now for what is maybe the most dramatic shift in the entire history of money. This is the moment when money stopped being a physical thing and became a pure concept, an idea backed by, not much more than our collective belief in it.
You're going to want to remember this date. It's known as the Nixon shock, and it was the day the entire game changed forever, completely rewiring the global financial system.
So, on that day, the US dollar's link to gold was officially cut. Before this, you could theoretically walk into a bank and exchange your dollars for a fixed amount of gold. But after, the dollar became a fiat currency. That means it's backed by nothing tangible, only by the full faith and credit of the government. Its value from that day forward comes purely from trust.
So if money isn't backed by gold anymore, where does it even come from? Well, the answer is pretty fascinating. It has a lot less to do with giant printing presses and a whole lot more to do with people typing on keyboards at banks. So here's how most new money gets created. It's not by governments, but by regular commercial banks making loans. It's a system called fractional reserve banking. So you deposit your money, and the bank only has to keep a small fraction of it on hand. The rest, it gets loaned out. And that loan becomes a new deposit somewhere else, and the cycle just keeps on going.
And here's the result of that little magic trick. Through that whole cycle of lending, your initial 10,000 rupees can expand into as much as 100,000 rupees circulating out there in the economy. It is brand new money, created as debt, pretty much out of thin air.
Now, this system of creating money as debt has a massive consequence. We now have a global economy that is completely built on borrowing. And the sheer scale of this is, it's truly staggering. As of 2025, that is the total amount of global debt. Now, to put that number in perspective, it's nearly 3 times the entire world's economic output. So the world literally owes itself 3 times more than it produces in a whole year. Just let that sink in.
What's really interesting here is looking at how different countries handle this. Japan's government debt is a jaw-dropping 235% of its economy. The US is sitting at 122.5%. But India, by comparison, is at a much more manageable 80%, putting it in a relatively safer position.
So what's the hidden cost of a system that can create so much money and debt out of nowhere? Well, it's a force that quietly eats away at the value of every single rupee in your pocket. We call it inflation.
Put simply, inflation just means your money buys less today than it did yesterday. Just think about petrol prices in India. They went from under 30 rupees in the 90s to over 100 today. The number in your bank account doesn't change, but what you can actually buy with it is constantly shrinking. And in extreme cases, when that trust in a currency completely collapses, this hidden tax becomes an absolute catastrophe. In Zimbabwe in 2008, prices were doubling every single day. In post-World War I Germany, people were using wheelbarrows full of cash just to buy a loaf of bread. This is what happens when the very idea of money fails. Okay, so given everything we've just seen, from money backed by nothing to inflation, what does all of this mean for your financial future? How do you even navigate a system this complex?
Well, the most important secret of all is really understanding the difference between currency and wealth. See, currency is just a tool for exchange. It's meant to be spent. And because of inflation, it is guaranteed to lose value over time. Wealth, on the other hand, is stored in real assets that appreciate.
We're talking things like businesses, real estate, stocks, or even your own skills.
And there is no story that illustrates this better. In 2010, a programmer traded 10,000 Bitcoin for 2 pizzas. Think about that. He traded a potential asset for a consumable good using a form of currency. Today, those Bitcoin are worth over $1 billion. It's a perfect, if very painful, lesson in the difference between the two.
And looking to the future, the very form of currency is changing again. And you know what? India is right at the forefront of this revolution. The Unified Payments Interface, or UPI, now handles a massive 84% of all retail digital payments. In fact, India now processes almost half of all the real-time digital payments on the entire planet. It's incredible. This really is the ultimate takeaway from understanding money's secret life. The goal isn't just to stack up more currency, which we know is losing value, but to use that currency to buy or build assets that grow in value.
From barter to Bitcoin, money has changed forms, but its true nature hasn't. It's built on trust, belief, and sometimes illusion. Remember, money loses value, but real wealth lasts. Build assets, not just savings, because the secret life of money is knowing that wealth is more than currency.